Hello everyone, welcome back to the United Star. Today we have Shainil here with us to analyze our former hero and now villain David De Gea. So Shainil, without wasting much time, what has gone wrong with De Gea since that World Cup and that Ronaldo free kick?
Okay, so let me start off by saying that I love De Gea and especially respect him for like all that he's done for the club, especially during the 5 seasons where we were in limbo basically. But since the 2017-18 season, which was statistically his best ever, he's had a massive drop off in performance. And he's had 7 errors leading to goals since 2018, which does not even include shots like the Steven Bergwijn shot against Tottenham. So, in terms of his actual shot stopping ability, his actual quality, you can see he has very few weaknesses in it. At his best, his reflexes are great. His range, like diving range, is amazing. His improvisation, so like the shots that he usually saves with his legs, etc., are great. But he's also had issues, like for example, his parrying technique that he's been able to work on, and he pushes them away from the path of opposition players. So now, in terms of the actual statistics, in 2017-18, De Gea had exhibited all the aforementioned qualities, and kind of the PSXG, which is the post shots expected goals statistic, it differs from expected goals in the sense that it actually measures the quality of the shots that De Gea has to face. So in the 2017-18 season, the difference between the shots he faced and the actual goals he conceded was 12.4. So he massively outperformed the type of goals that he was expected to concede. But this season, Man United ranked 12th in the league in this statistic, and De Gea's total for the season has been 0.3, and it's been negative for large periods of the season. And this is despite the fact that De Gea's post shots expected goals per shot on target has remained approximately the same. So basically, this means that he's faced shots of the similar quality over the past 3 seasons, but he's had a massive drop off in the shots that he saves, basically. So yeah, this is becoming a massive issue for him. And sorry, um, there's a second graph which shows that De Gea's good, like basically his overall performance, his quality of shots faced versus the expected goals that he's going to either save or concede. He ranks negative in this statistic, and compared to most of the keepers, he's on the lower end of the quality of shots faced. So they're much easier than most of the keepers. So he's massively underperforming in this statistic as well. Other than the shot stopping, we can look at his aerial dominance or lack of it. This statistic actually surprised me because usually United fans can notice that he's rather tentative with claiming balls and like just coming out in general. But you think he's like relatively good with punching the ball or parrying it away from danger. But um, he's started to get a little flustered and reluctant to come on and claim high balls. So if you look at the crosses that have been attempted by the opposition, there's been 268 that he's faced this season. He's claimed only 13 of these, which ranks in the league at position 17, which is terrible for a goalkeeper for top club. The graph shows, like the graph that you can see shows his tentativeness, especially under pressure. He's punched away safely 5 of these 13 shots, but more importantly, he's either punched dangerously or missed 5 out of 13 crosses, which have all been in dangerous areas and just around his 6 yard box, which is terrible and also probably explains why we've ranked 7th on the list of most goals conceded via corner kicks. So if you look at a possible technical issue here, it could be the manner in which he punches the ball. So when he comes out to punch, he turns his body, so tries to protect himself from danger, which is not what you want in a keeper. You want him to be bold and fearless. So that could be one of the reason why he misses the shots, because he loses the aerial hang time. And yeah, these are probably two of the biggest issues in terms of just the basics.
I think I think Shannon, you're absolutely right. And also, if you look at this graph of his performance in terms of comparing him to other keepers in Europe's top 5 leagues, he's not doing particularly well. And another thing I want to point out from this graph is that Dean Henderson is actually doing much better than he is, and that might be a sort of warning sign in terms of for David De Gea that we might actually shift to sort of a Dean Henderson, right? He's in the negative of expected goals and to shots conceded, whereas Henderson is on the upper range of the graph. So that is one thing. But Chanel, do you think a lot of this is down to concentration and psychological issues?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at it in the 2017-18 season, where, like I mentioned, he's had amazing performances. United used to often sit back and let and basically soak up all the pressure. So De Gea used to be involved in most of the play. So that's been the main difference between that season and this season, because this season a lot of the goals that he's conceded have been silly or careless mistakes, which is also what's aggravated the fans a lot. So just to compare, if you look at the game against Sevilla in 2018, I think in the round of 16 Champions League, um, which was one of his best performances where we drew 0-0. He faced 8 shots on target. And again, against Arsenal in the Premier League, where United won 3-1, he faced 16 shots on target. So in both of these matches where he's excelled, he's had a lot to do during the game and nothing to take his focus away. But this season, so if you look at just his involvement in play when United are in possession as well, because we tend to dominate a lot of the games since restart at least. So in the 5-2 victory against Bournemouth, where he made a mistake, and just other games against Southampton, the 2-2, and against Aston Villa, the 3-0, he's had um, between 6 and 8 passes to just one player in each of the games. And again, that's on the low end. He's had the fewest touches of United players in most games. And he just doesn't have to face as many shots on target. So if you look at the game against Watford, where he let a shot straight through his hands, basically, he only had to face 3 shots on target the entire game. And where he made a mistake, it was the first one that he had to face. And again, avoidable goals that he conceded against Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Bournemouth have all been at periods where he's had fewer to no shots on target prior to these instances. Um, Now, it's understandable that he drops his concentration after being a part of a team that gets dominated in most matches of the past 5 years, at least. So I think Peter Schmeichel summed it best when he said that the team is evolving under Ole, and that means David's role is changing too. If you're a goalkeeper that has been busy for years and now you're not too busy, you have to change your game a little bit. You need to find new ways of keeping your concentration and of staying with the game. And that just sums it up perfectly. I think De Gea just has to adapt to the new circumstances. And again, like, I feel he's shown that he can do it. He has the mental strength to do it. So if you remember when he first arrived in 2011, when he was competing with Lindegaard for the goalkeeping spot to take over from Van der Sar, he had concerns with his physicality, indecisiveness when coming out for crosses, and obviously his inability to command the box during set pieces. And all of these issues were identified. And over the 5 years after 2013, he's shown that he can work on these. And to be honest, if he stays at the club and if he is first choice, I'm confident that De Gea will have a successful period in the future. The only question is how much will United fans have to suffer as a result of that, especially when United are aspiring for major trophies.
Mm-hmm. I think Shannon, when you brought up the point of the 2011 season, it almost makes me wonder that De Gea is only a good keeper when the pressure is on. It's almost as if he's not a good keeper when the pressure is off. But just to end, finally, I want to talk a little bit about his positioning and how he sets up. So there are two aspects. First thing that I have noticed is he tends to concede a lot of goals on his near post now, which he first used to save with his feet. Now that is not happening. And the second thing is I want you to touch up a little bit on how his save percentages have fallen from close range and long range. So these two things you can touch upon, and of course his setup for penalties.
Okay, so first, let me address just his body shape in general. So most of the times, right before a goalkeeper is faced with like a potential shot, they get in the fixed position to like prepare to dive. So basically, just try to remain on their toes. Um, at times, De Gea jumps a little to get into position, and while this is not uncommon among most keepers, because most keepers try to pulse to stay on their feet, or just try to get a spring in their step when they actually jump. But De Gea actually jumps. He actually gets off the ground, and this, as a result, it cuts his reaction time, and his stance becomes too wide because his knees are bent inwards and his legs are too far apart. So, if you look at this picture where Bergwijn's shooting and he concedes a goal in a suspect area, it's probably because he has a lack of mobility, um, just to try to get his arms towards the shot or move his legs to save the shot. Um, so with such a wide base, there are a lot of issues that arise that take away his ability to make saves. First, he'd be very inflexible and imbalanced because he can't get his legs out of the way quickly enough, and his diving range will reduce because he doesn't have the springing motion that I mentioned. And secondly, this stance leaves too many vulnerable gaps for attackers to aim towards, especially between his legs, just outside his legs, and right next to his head. Now, obviously, you can't block everything because the goal is huge. Um, if his legs are a bit closer together, he can easily save those with his feet. And again, that will give him more mobility to save shots just outside his legs. So he can get back to what he used to do by saving um, shots below his waist with his legs and above with his hands or just diving saves. Um, so yeah, he's just unable to redistribute his weight for the bovine shot. And you mentioned the near post is an issue. Now, obviously, um, it's sort of expected for a goalkeeper to save on near post shots, but I feel like that's with too simple analysis because obviously, like goalkeepers are trying to cover the far post as well. But if you look at the Patrick Van Aanholt shot when Crystal Palace beat United this season, those kinds of shots definitely have to be dealt with. So again, this is a result of his body shape because he leaves too many gaps for Van Aanholt to aim at. And his lower crouch position, as you can see in the second picture, that also just restricts his ability to move. And I feel that's a big reason why he concedes such kind of goals. And he can probably work on them with reps, like just multiple reps, the same kind of shots. Now, coming to long range shots, so if you see the second goal that he conceded against Mason Mount, against Chelsea by Mason Mount, and that goal is very similar to the one that he conceded against Barcelona in the Champions League last season, where they beat us 3-0. So Messi's second goal, he just let that go under his hands. So again, this is a technical issue that arises with how he approaches low shots, especially on his left side. And this is largely because of his preference to save shots with his right hand. Now, while this may be okay for high shots on the left hand side because that gives him a lot of reach to save the shots, that's definitely not the way to go for low grounded shots. And if you look at the behind the goal footage for the goal against Chelsea, his right hand actually pushes the ball out of the way of his left hand, which is ridiculous because he already had that shot saved. Um, and the main issue with this is like how his right hand is blocked by his body, so it takes much longer to reach the left hand side. And that's also why he probably let the goal against Messi go. His right hand took too long to reach that side, and the ball just slipped past underneath during that. So if you look at these specific issues combined with like just bad decision making in general, because De Gea has been caught between catching and firing long range shots, claiming and punching crosses, and engaging uh, the striker or just waiting to react to the shot for one-on-one goals. And yeah, that's just a big issue that arises. Um, yeah, so now if we look at just his penalty saves in general, like there's not much I can analyze with this stat. I mean, he saves 0 out of 18 penalties, and the probability of this happening is next to 0. But if you look at technique again for this, most successful keepers in this in penalties least have had the patience and composure to either watch opponents' movements right before they shoot, or just simply pick a side and commit it fully towards it. So they try to stay as big as possible in goal. And this is not to say that they use distraction techniques, which often are just pointless, but they actually ooze confidence, and this could intimidate strikers. So De Gea doesn't do a majority of these things, possibly because he has a restrained character, as you can see, like with his aerial ability, where he just refuses to come out for crosses, to claim crosses. So yeah, De Gea just doesn't come off his line to block the angles, like even a little bit for penalties, which makes a difference. He doesn't dive early enough, so his timing's all off, and that probably explains why he's been poor at penalties.
I think Chanel, you've summed it up quite nicely. I just finally to end, I want to point you all towards this the image that's on your screen right now. You can see in terms of close range, mid range, long range, and one-on-one shots, all of them there has been at least a 7 to almost a 14 percentage drop, and that is startling to me. His save to goals ratio has fallen. His quality per shot is not as high as used to be in his prime season, as Chanel said in 17-18. So all of these things are falling and all of them are going to the wayside. And that is the cause of concern. As Chanel rightly said, I yet think that De Gea is one of the best keepers, right? But how long is it going to take him to come back is the biggest question. And can we afford to gift matches away like the FA Cup semi-final or the Champions League match against Barcelona? Can we afford that? That is the real questions that United fans need to answer. I think Chanel has covered a brilliant statistical, technical, and tactical analysis of how De Gea has fallen off so badly. And maybe it's just some time he needs on the practice pitch to get back. But the question is, are we willing to give him that time? So, guys, let us know in the comments and please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.